The funniest thing with Tom Aspinall and Volkov is people that were at the O2 or didn't know a ton about mixed martial arts, they would have thought that this Volkov guy, oh, he's a lump, like he's not very good. People don't actually realise that Volkov is one of the most accomplished
strikers. I mean, everything
ever
really. He's
in the
ridiculous.
heavyweight division. You look at his credentials, there's not many more grizzled vets in the game than someone like Volkov in the heavyweight division. I think he's got over 50 pro fights. He's been fit. The last time he was finished was like 13 years ago.
Unbelievable.
By a submission. So it sort of goes to show. But when you have a look at Tom Aspinall, we have to look at the jiu-jitsu credentials. He's old man Andy Aspinall, the first black belt
coach
in jiu-jitsu in the UK. So we're talking about a legitimate pioneer who had Tom Aspinall in the gi at 5, 6, 7 years old. And then we have a look at the family friends that are the Furies, who he acted as a training partner for Tyson Fury many times in the cage, in the ring, sorry. So we know the boxing credentials of Tom Aspinall as well. And then we have a look at the training room, because you can't look at Tom Aspinall without looking at the lion's den that his dad has created in the north of England. Because if we want to look at mixed martial arts around the globe, I don't think there is any fiercer collaboration of heavyweights than there is with Andy Aspinall and Tom Aspinall currently. And it was on full display yesterday when Phil DeFries went out and extended his unbeaten streak to 10-0 in the KSW organisation, a very difficult and tough organisation. And you have a look at the mats that they've got up there. They've got the likes of Phil DeFries and Tom Aspinall and Mick Parkin, who's also on the card. And they've got some of the biggest bodies in the world.
And that's difficult to do, to get all of those guys.
The hardest weight class.
Not a lot of guys you can spar there. Yeah, he's got a sort of super team. You know, he is such... They're doing, not just Tom, but everyone around him is doing everything right to ensure that he is on the path to success.
Correct.
And I think that's why he's going to get to gold. I've never been more confident about someone getting there in the UFC, getting to the top of the sport, because to me, it's not an if, it's just a when, and the injury set him back, but I don't think that's going to stop him. I really don't.
And you hit a very good point there, because that's exactly what's happening now. And I've heard Tom speak about this before. The injury was very much a blessing in disguise, because not only has he not been able to train and compete with two legs for almost 5 years, I think it is. So not only has he been able to recover and be able to train properly and be able to throw a diversity of kicks, but it also gave him a lot of time on the sidelines to really rethink his own mental approach to the game, really rethink his own position in the sport. And he said that time away really gave him the clarity to know that there's nothing that he wants more than to be heavyweight champion of the world. And now he has conditioned his entire life to make sure that everything is geared up to make him the heavyweight champion of the world. Whether it's the conversations he's having, whether it's the places he goes, the people he speaks to, or the training rooms that he's in. And we've seen now with the training room that his dad's curated, that he's going every single day with the sole mission and the sole goal of becoming the best heavyweight, not just in the division, but of all time. I genuinely believe that. And I think that's where we can look at the skill set of a Tom Aspinall, because yes, we've seen him strike. We can see him strike in both stances. He has a variety of a kicking game and clinches. And then we have a look at skills that he's done against high-level competition like Spivak, where he's landing knees and elbows at the same time.
That elbow, oh my word.
People don't do that in heavyweight MMA. That's not what people do. And you cannot get looks for that, because you can't find people with that dexterity and that striking. And this is why we're looking at matchups like John Jones with so much enthusiasm, because yes, he can wrestle. Yes, he can jiu-jitsu, and yes, he can strike. And he's starting to put that all together. And the thing that's so impressive with Tom is when he's in the cage, he's so present. He's so present and he's so coherent to what his coaches are saying and what they're telling him. He's sat there with Volkov. He's inside control, just
looking at his dad,
working on a straight arm lock, and he's looking over his dad, taking instructions and just making small adjustments against Alexander Volkov.
There's that one bit when he looks up his dad and then he just pounds him with an elbow. He's like, "Yep, stop that.
And I
I'm
think
just talking
I
to my
think
dad."
when we have a look at Tom Aspinall, we have to remind ourselves that this is one of the most exciting. I can't even call him a prospect because that's
He's not
disrespectful.
that anymore.
For the
Yeah,
longest of
he's
times.
elite.
And there's been
Yeah.
conversations at sometimes around if he can really do it and if Curtis Blades was going to do this and that. We haven't even seen him with two legs.
Mm.
Two-legged Tom Aspinall
Not
is a
even his
new
final form,
mythical
man.
fighter,
Mythical fighter.
and he's being unlocked at UFC London. And I'm going on record to say that he's going to make this easy. He's going to
I
make
agree.
this look like it's an opponent that shouldn't even be in there, which is crazy because Tybura is a very well-credentialed veteran in the UFC game. He's going to go out in the first round. He's going to get a stoppage, and he's going to remind fans why he's the biggest threat to John Jones or the heavyweight crown right now and for the
How do
future
you see
of
it
the next
happening?
10 years. I think he's going to
How do you
go
see it
out
happening?
and
Like
I
specifically,
think he's
I'm
going to
seeing
go
a
out in the
1-2.
first round. I think he's going to be aggressive from the
I
get
agree.
with his hands. I think he's going to use his boxing. I think he may threaten a takedown or a level change or at least get into a grappling exchange, a clinch exchange. I don't think he's necessarily even going to take him to the floor. In fact, I'm changing all my opinion as I say this out loud. I think he's going to go out in the first. I think he's going to set up his hands to get to a clinch position. I think he's going to take him down at will, and I think he's going to submit him or ground and pound him in one
I mean, it
round.
doesn't matter, does it? It's happening.
I don't think.
To me, it's happening.
I actually don't think that he's going to be able to get a ground and pound finish because I don't think that there's going to be a world in where Tybura doesn't give him a submission opportunity that he's going to be able to just take so instantaneously.
Yeah,
it's just going to take less time to submit him than it's going to be able to punch 4, 5, 6 more times. And I think it's going to happen.
I will say,
first.
yeah, something that's so impressive, just to finish on that, about his Volkov win is the actual submission itself. You just don't see that. I mean, a straight arm lock is rare, but to see it from a half guard is such a it's very, very impressive because in a half guard you're in that sort of in between spot. You know, there's things you can do offensively, submission wise, as you know, you can get something like an arm lock, but it's very difficult to get the finish there. Is generally speaking, you want to try and progress to side control or mount where you can really start to apply the pressure and get a submission, which is a lot harder to get out of. Because in half guard, you're in that sort of in between, and that's why that's even so more impressive. They just did it without. It was so instant. Grabbed the arm, got underneath with the grip and just finished it like it was nothing. Like it was a cakewalk against a guy like Volkov. It's comical how impressive it was. It was almost like he's just playing with a cheat code on or something. You know what I mean? I could not be more excited for him to come back. He is my favorite fighter and has been for a long time. He was my first YouTube video was on him.
True.
So I can't be more excited. He's going to hopefully, I mean, there are some good fights in this card, but we can't sit and pretend that it's not for the price they're charging. Thank you, UFC. It's just criminal. He's one of the few fights that is worth it price-wise on there. I think he's just worth just watching him alone, regardless of who he's fighting. Just watching him fight said it about Volkanovski last week. It's a privilege, and he is exactly the same.
True. And I think the first thing he said when he came out and got that submission was he looked shocked in all the interviews where people were so surprised that he got that because he said, I get that from half guard all the time in training. And of course he does because he's so strong and skilled that he gets so much force and leverage into his submissions that just minor adjustments and he's putting a lot of torque and pressure on your joints. And there's only so much you can take of that from a 260-pound beast. And we have to talk about his strength and conditioning. And the last thing that I'll touch on as well, which is so impressive with Tom Aspinall, and one thing that I really like about Tom Aspinall as well, and something which I think is an intangible difference, which is going to help elevate his game and get him to the top and keep him there for so long. You look around him and who's in his camp and who's in his corner in terms of his strength and conditioning, in terms of his nutrition, in terms of his training. They're very close to Tom in terms of its family or close friends or his dad. And I think with having such a tight-knit group and having so many people close to him that want nothing but the best and are operating at a very high level. I follow his strength and conditioning coach. I follow his nutritioning coach. Again, like I said, friends and family. So nothing but the best interest at heart. And I think that does make a difference as an intangible that you have to sort of mention because, yeah, he's a freak. And like you said, one of the most exciting. But